My sister's new boyfriend insulted me at dinner, and everyone laughed. Mom said I should stop embarrassing the family. So I let them talk, until he mentioned his job. Then I pulled out my phone and watched their smiles fade. My name's Tyler. I am 26. And if I could summarize my family in one sentence, it would be image matters more than integrity. That sounds dramatic, I know. But if you've ever had a mom who cared more about what the neighbors thought than your mental health, or a sibling who could do no wrong even while doing everything wrong, you'd understand. My family isn't abusive, exactly. Just performative. Polished smiles, perfectly chosen words, holiday cards that look like Hallmark exploded on them. Scratch the surface, though, and it's all ego, judgment, and appearances that I've always been the odd one out. The quiet kid with a head full of ideas, more comfortable building websites or tweaking Python scripts than chatting at church brunch. I got a full ride for computer science and spent 4 years quietly working on a side project I never mentioned to anyone. Long story short, that project took off after graduation. Think software licensing deal, modest exit, solid investments. Nothing wild, no yachts or Teslas, but enough to freelance when I wanted, travel, and live comfortably under the radar that my family, however, assumed I was still finding myself. My mom would drop lines like, "You'll figure out your calling soon," even after I bought a house outright. Then there's my sister, Belle, 28, beauty pageant alum, communications major, married her college sweetheart at 23. When that marriage imploded last year, irreconcilable ambition differences, as she called it, she moved back home. That's when things started to shift. Suddenly, Belle was on a mission. New hair, new wardrobe, new Instagram aesthetic, and eventually a new boyfriend. His name? Brad. Because of course it was. Tall, tan, manicured beard. Probably says alpha energy, unironically. And, of course, my family adored him. Mom gushed like she was his PR agent. "He's very successful in finance," she said one night, swirling her wine like she knew what that meant. Dad nodded approvingly. "Carries himself well. I met Brad once at my parents' place. Just a handshake and a casual, 'Yo, man, what's up?' Something about him rubbed me the wrong way. Too slick, too rehearsed. And the way Belle looked at him, it wasn't love, it was performance. Like she wanted us all to see her leveling up. I figured he'd fade out like her other projects. I was wrong, but a week ago, Mom texted, "Family dinner Sunday at 6. Be there. Belles brad. No emoji. No please. Just a command." Typical that I almost skipped it. But something about her tone made me show up, 10 minutes late, just to mess with the vibe. Mom opened the door, perfectly lipsticked, giving me that "you embarrass me" look. "Tyler," she sighed. We were about to start. No hug. No hello. Inside, the table was set, crystal glasses, cloth napkins, Mom's overcooked roast. Dad at the head with his scotch. Bed gluing. Brad lounging like he owned the place. "Yo, what's up, bro?" Brad grinned. "Nice of you to finally show up." "Traffic?" I said. He snorted. "Right. In this town." Mom cleared her throat, motioning me to sit like a director cueing her last actor. Dinner started fine. Small talk, weather, some distant cousin news. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd survive the night. Then Brad started his story. Something about a co-worker who tried launching a side hustle. Dude thought he'd be the next Zuckerberg, he laughed. Made $5 and called himself an entrepreneur. Everyone laughed, Mom the loudest. Belle even wiped a fake tear. Brad looked right at me. "You ever try anything like that, Tyler? I heard you're into that tech stuff." I shrugged. "You should talk to this guy I know," he went on. "Teaches coding to high schoolers. Pretty solid gig for people who can't break into real development work." Laughter again. Even Belle smirked. Mom didn't flinch, so I smiled back. "Sound like a great fallback for someone like you." His grin faltered for half a second. "Nah, man, I'm good. I'm in finance. You know, real-world stuff." Dad chuckled. "We could use more of that around here." That one stung. It shouldn't have, but it did. Especially since I'd built him a budgeting app last year that practically ran his finances for him. But sure, Brad was the real deal. I stayed quiet after that, letting them enjoy their perfect little performance. But inside, I was already turning gears. Because earlier that week, curiosity got the better of me. I'd Googled Brad. And what I found? Let's just say his definition of finance was a bit creative that I didn't say anything that night. Not yet. I waited that I let them talk. And then, right after dessert, Brad opened his mouth again. And that's when everything shifted. But I'll get to that. You know that feeling when everyone's laughing at something, but it's not funny to you? Not even remotely? It's not that you don't get the joke. It's that you are the joke, and everyone knows it, and they're fine with it. That was me, sitting there, picking at a dry piece of roast beef while Brad held court like some motivational speaker hosting a family TED Talk. And they ate it up. Bell hung on every word like he was handing out stock tips straight from heaven. My dad leaned in, nodding like a bobblehead. And my mom, she had that glassy-eyed look she used to save for country club wives with doctor husbands. I just sat there, mostly silent, watching all unfold like a spectator of my own humiliation. Then Brad said, patting his stomach and pushing his plate forward like a satisfied king, "Our firm's launching a new algorithmic fund next quarter. Real cutting-edge stuff. You wouldn't believe the amount of back-end work I've had to oversee." "Back-end work?" I asked casually, twirling my fork between my fingers that he glanced at me. "Yeah, quantitative models, predictive analytics, finance nerd stuff, you know." He chuckled like he just made a clever joke. "Oh, sure," I said. "Sounds complex." "It is," he said. "You ever think about getting into real business? Or is the dream still coding in your pajamas and drinking Red Bull at 2 a.m.? Belle laughed like it was the funniest thing she'd ever heard. "Brad, stop," she said, though she clearly didn't mean it. "Tyler's always been more of a passion project kind of guy." My mom didn't laugh this time. She just gave me that look, the tight-lipped, passive-aggressive mom look that could drain the oxygen out of a room. "Tyler," she said, "we talked about this. You have to let people tease you sometimes. It's how we connect." I blinked. Tease or belittle? Her tone hardened. "Don't make a scene." And there it was. The line I'd heard 1,000 times growing up. Don't make a scene. Translation: don't make us look bad. Don't make us uncomfortable. Don't disrupt the illusion. I leaned back in my chair. Didn't realize being mocked at dinner counted as bonding. Brad raised an eyebrow. "It's all in good fun, man. No need to get defensive." I didn't respond. Just looked at him long enough for his confident smirk to flicker. Then my dad broke the tension. All right, let's move on. "Tyler, you doing anything interesting these days?" I knew he didn't actually care. It was just a lifeline disguised as small talk, a way to reset the mood. "Working on a few projects," I said vaguely. "Keeping busy." Brad snorted, apparently his default setting. "What kind of projects? Or is that top secret?" I looked at him. He didn't blink. He was baiting me again. Before I could answer, my mom sighed loudly like I was the problem. "Tyler, please," she said, using that disappointed teacher voice. "Can we not do this tonight? You're making things awkward." I froze. All eyes turned toward me. I was making things awkward. Not Brad, who'd been go to me all night. Not Belle, who giggled through every jab like it was open mic night. Me. Something twisted in my chest, familiar, heavy, bitter. The same feeling I used to get in high school, when Belle threw a tantrum over something she did wrong, and I got grounded for not being the bigger person. The same feeling I had when I got a full scholarship 3 states away, and Mom said, "You'll change your mind, sweetie. You don't want to leave your family, do you?" Like wanting a life of my own was selfish. I clenched my jaw. "Sure," I said tightly. "Let's not make things awkward." The conversation moved on. To mutual friends, vacations, someone's dog. I tuned it all out. Just nodded when needed, sipped my water, kept my face neutral. But inside, a storm was building. Because that wasn't just a few rude comments. That was years of quiet contempt wrapped in polite laughter. Years of being overlooked, dismissed, told to be smaller, softer, easier. And now, there was a shiny new golden boy at the table. One who could say whatever he wanted as long as he looked good doing it. Then came the moment. Dessert was cleared, store-bought cheesecake, though Mom pretended she baked it. And the wine had done its job. Dad leaned back with a satisfied grunt while Belle scrolled through her phone, showing Brad something on Instagram. "So anyway," Brad said suddenly, looking up from the screen, "I actually gave a talk last week on fintech disruption. My team's been working with this new predictive analytics firm, Startup Stream, or something like that. Tiny dev company, barely anyone's heard of them. They got good tech though. We're probably going to buy their platform outright in a few months. I set my glass down slowly. Startup stream? I asked calm. Yeah, Brad said. You've heard of them? A bit, I said. What's your involvement exactly? He grinned. I'm a guy who does the talking, you know? Front-facing. I smooth the deals, make sure the numbers align. Some execs don't like dealing directly with the code people, too technical. The code people, I repeated flatly. Yeah, Brad said, not catching the tone. No offense, but those guys aren't exactly business-minded. Brilliant, sure, but not built for the big table. The big table, I echoed. Everyone was watching now. Belle with a nervous smile, Dad confused, Mom frowning. Brad kept talking. We'll probably fold their tools into our system. Maybe hire a few devs if they can keep up. Win-win. I didn't answer. I just pulled out my phone. What are you doing? Mom snapped that I ignored her, opened my email, found what I wanted. Startup stream, I said. That predictive analytics firm your company's buying? Brad nodded smug. Cool, I said, holding up my screen. Because I own it. Silence. Real, heavy silence that Brad's grin collapsed. Mom blinked. What are you talking about? Startup Stream is my company, I said evenly. I built it. Licensed our product to 3 hedge funds last year. One of them being your firm, Brad. Had 3 meetings with your execs. Never saw your name once. He went pale. Bed stared. Dad sat up straighter. Mom finally spoke. You mean to tell me you own a company? Since when? 3 years, I said. But would it have mattered if I told you? Brad stood, fumbling for words. Look, man, I didn't know exactly. I cut in. If you did, you wouldn't have said half of what you said tonight. The silence that followed was the kind that rewires people's egos. When they realized the version of you in their heads was never real, that I could have humiliated him more. Told him his firm had been lowballing us for weeks. But I didn't. I was too tired to S.O. I just said, I'm selling Startup Stream. The deal closes Friday. Mom gasped. You're what? It's done. I said. Belle whispered, selling? For how much? Enough. Brad croaked. To who? I looked at him. Not yours. Then I left. Didn't wait for dessert. Didn't say goodbye. That night, I barely slept. You'd think it would feel good walking out like that. And it did partly. But there's also that quiet ache that comes when you finally stop needing people who never really saw you. No calls. No texts. Just silence. And for the first time, I didn't chase it. After selling my company, I didn't crash into despair, but I felt hollow, like I'd snapped a rubber band stretched too long. The sale process was brutal, like gutting your own house, but gave me structure. At 10:07 a.m. that Friday, I signed the final papers. A minute later, the money hit, life-changing, unreal. Instead of celebrating, I walked to the old coffee shop I used to work at. Same burn espresso, same wobbly table. That's where Belle texted, You around? I thought about ignoring it, but curiosity won. She looked different when she opened the door. No makeup, no performance. Just Belle. Her place was small and messy, like she hadn't settled yet. She apologized about dinner, about Brad, about everything. Said Mom was crying. Dad was pretending nothing happened, but they both thought I embarrassed the family. Figures. Still, for once, her apology felt real that I didn't promise anything. I just left and booked a 2-week trip. No work, no family, just quiet. Somewhere along the coast, I started to feel whole again. When I came back, there was a letter waiting, a wedding invitation. Belibrad, and a note from Mom. Family is everything. Let's not let one dinner ruin that I stared at it for a long time. Family is everything. If that were true, maybe they should have started treating me like something. Then I smiled, not from bitterness, but because for the first time, I realized I had something they didn't. Leverage.